Hello, everyone. Hope all is good where you are and everyone's safe around you. Welcome to TikTok 101 webinar. We have actually more than 1,000 people today registered for this from over 60 countries, which is pretty great. We appreciate your interest. Thank you for your time. For us, it also shows the impact of this platform. A lot of interest everywhere. That's really amazing, right? So what do we aim to achieve today? Our goal is that by the end of the session, you will feel confident in leading conversations about TikTok within your organization. That's the primary thing. And if things go well, perhaps you will set the course on how your brands might get involved with it. That's the next step. And we hope you get there one day as well. So let's get moving, right? Just perhaps one kind of housekeeping. You don't need to take screen grabs. We will share this deck later. We'll give you some more details in a minute about that, right? But since this is a 101 session, maybe we start with a poll, right? Maybe, yeah. So before we start, let's get a little bit of a sense from you of what your experience is. If you look at the right-hand side of your screen, there will be a poll icon. So please do share with us what's your experience. What is your big challenge around TikTok? So we will let it live for a couple of minutes. So please do answer the poll, and we'll get back to the results in just a couple of minutes time. Okay, moving on. Today's webinar will be led by myself. My name is Werner, and also by Meili that works with me.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, we both work at the strategy department at We Are Social Singapore, and we are part of the team running the global Samsung mobile social media business. And as a network, we also have the pleasure of working with Netflix, Adidas, Vodafone, and many other brands that actually require us to keep eyes open and pretty good pulse of how consumers are behaving in real. And one of the things that we've seen grow and consolidate in the last 12 months is an explosion of interest in usage of TikTok. Moving on. Yeah, and it wasn't only in Asia that this interest has exploded. All over the world, our offices have been receiving TikTok briefs with lots of collaborations happening among offices. Even last week, we were working with our Canada office on a North America brief for an apparel brand. There's fresh work coming from Europe, from Australia, across a variety of industries. The network has established a cross-office expert group, and the list of TikTok initiatives goes on and on and on. I guess the point here is that there's a lot of work happening around TikTok, and this work is the outcome of a rather simple realization that inspired this webinar and many of the initiatives that I just described. So we made a full slide just about this. The realization is that despite not being in the phones of most brand decision makers, TikTok is pretty mainstream in the social world by now. So there is a little bit of a lack of familiarity that appears to impact the understanding of its potential, therefore the opportunities that brands can get out of it, right? So if your brand works in any area that has something to do with culture or produces culture like TV, music, film, gaming, or if you sell clothes or shoes or sports equipment, if you sell mobile phones or other electronics, if your brand is in personal care or maybe beauty, confectionery, food, beverages, travel, education, lots and lots of industries. So you're very likely to be selling to people that have TikTok in their home screen, and they open it pretty frequently. So that means a massive opportunity to build relationship, to build brand equity, and of course to build business as well. Your brand actually is very fortunate to have people like yourselves, because you guys can bring depth to the discussion around TikTok. So don't stereotype it. This is something we always have to remind ourselves. Don't stereotype TikTok. So I think this session today is a lot about that as well. So let's get moving and let's see a little bit what was the answer to your question, right? So we asked what's the main challenge around TikTok, and the majority of today's audience have the following challenge. Apparently 69% have the challenge of understanding how to create content that works authentically for your brand, right? So that was by far the winner here today. So today's presentation will definitely be very useful. I'm glad to see that this means to me like that there's a lot of people getting started, and this is ultra positive, I think, for your brands as well, just as well as for yourselves and for TikTok as a intern. So let's move to the next slide, and let's show how we're going to go about this today, how we're going to get to understand a little bit better what TikTok is and how to work on it. So over the next 45 minutes or so, we will cover the state of TikTok today. We're going to dive into some of the specifics. We're going to cover best practices and how you can get started, how your brand can get started, right? So we will use the rest of the time to go over questions. Unfortunately, we cannot do the Q&A using live audio because there's a 20 to 30 seconds lag. So all questions need to be in written format. Do post a question or like other people's questions on the right-hand side panel of the screen. And we will also make available this recording. It's going to be made available as well as the presentation, right, in a couple of days, maybe early next week. And it will include an appendix with the answers to the top questions, even some that we might not cover today because of time. Okay, cool. So let's jump into the state of TikTok. Okay, so every data point about TikTok is pretty huge, right? So I will go through this quite quickly because you surely know about this. I mean, the news are there every single day talking about some data around TikTok. So, and we want this session to be more about what you don't read than what you read and what you see every day. But yeah, 2 billion downloads worldwide, pretty massive. In the next slide, you're going to see a little bit of data of usage, right? So, and if you did use it yourself already, or if you tried, you know that it can be pretty addictive. No wonder there's 6.7 million TikTok videos watched every minute. And also the usage actually has been increasing, right? So I think this has been widely reported as well. So there's lots of people using their spare time at home to have some fun with the app, right? And the conclusion that we get in the next slide is pretty clear, right? So it could be nothing else other than that TikTok is taking over the likes of other social platforms. So TikTok is a home screen must-have for a lot of people, right? So I think this is the beginning of an answer to this next session that we have, which is why brands can't ignore TikTok. Of course, lots of people is great start, but that's not the only reason, right? We have two strong reasons, right? We move to the, so we think there's two strong reasons why your organizations might need to work with TikTok, and it depends on who your brand's audience is and what is your objective. So reason one is to drive brand growth with current users. If your audience is composed primarily of Gen Z or maybe younger millennials. We call it like the short-term angle, right? The second reason is that you can start building a relationship with the next generation of users of your brands in case you sell to other audiences. So this is the longer-term angle, and we're going to cover both of them. But first, I would like to talk a little bit about targeting. Although TikTok was built around Gen Z, and this is where their fame is, be mindful that there are nuances, and in many places, millennials are TikTok's core audience. So we suggest you to don't wrap the whole thing as a Gen Z platform because sometimes it can be more relevant to millennial brands. And this info can actually sway stakeholders in your company to explore it more, right? So, by the way, the same thing actually goes to gender. Right, several Gulf countries or in South Asian countries in particular, the profile is a lot more geared towards male than female, right? So I think the same point I made a little bit earlier, don't stereotype TikTok. I mean, it is a platform that is evolving and there's a lot of people that of different profiles depending on the region or where you're located, depending on your market. Moving on, let's start talking about one of those reasons or those arguments that we mentioned a little bit earlier, right? So let's start talking about the long-term argument for TikTok. So if your brand has older millennial as clients, you probably want to explore TikTok with the objective of creating a favorable brand image in your next wave of consumers. So this might seem like a bit weak for many gatekeepers inside organizations, but if you consider that many of these target Gen Zers or even younger millennials don't yet have favorite brands of a variety of different types of industries, especially higher ticket items such as mobile phones or cars, that kind of thing. And you factor in the lifetime value of a consumer for a brand that actually does this kind of product, then it starts to make sense. So long-term thinking, math is going to be your friend here. And also, of course, from an equity perspective, it can be very relevant because you can make the argument that TikTok can humanize the brand and make it more authentic, which in itself can be more valuable, right? Let's move to the next slide and discuss this a little bit more. And move on actually to short-term goals, right? If a brand targets young users and lifestyle is an important part of your brand proposition, then you probably should be on TikTok now, or at least you should be exploring it very seriously because this is where your target is, right? We know that having volume of people in a platform is a good start, but it's probably easier said than done. It does not translate immediately into action, right? So let's go into the next slide and discuss this a little bit. What are the challenges and some of the experience that we have, right? So I have heard like quite a few times from different types of people, some are clients, some are prospects or people in the industry, that yes, there's lots of people on TikTok, but TikTok doesn't work commercially, right? So this is the kind of comment or argument that I would always try to put into context to my clients, right? So it may not work if we force fit sales or if we put focus on features, putting features into the feed rather than talk about people, right? Because TikTok really is about culture and it's incredibly influential in today's culture. So we have some examples of songs that just got famous there or makeup that trends that started up there. So it's influential in culture. So we have to understand well that what TikTok can and what TikTok cannot do, right? So an easy perhaps parallel is with cutlery, right? So a fork is not a very good choice to drink soup, but no doubt it can help us eat, right? It's just not the same type of use. So TikTok is a catalyst, right? So we consider it a catalyst in activating cultural conversations, meaning it's about entertainment. And this is a key word here, right? It's much more so about the value that we can provide as a brand to entertain our audiences, much more so than about products and ads. So the attitude towards it has to be different than the attitude that we have for perhaps Facebook or YouTube, in which there are much more like in your face kind of traditional advertising formats that are a lot geared towards awareness and geared towards the product. But on TikTok, it's very different because it is basically, we're talking a lot more about the value that we can add to people outside of, the products that we make. And this is makes a lot of difference in the way that we actually treat TikTok. If we move forward, one of the key differences, I think that between TikTok and other platforms is that it is designed to be a platform for people to create, right? So much more so than a platform for brands to advertise. So keep in mind the human element at all times. Influencers are extremely effective in TikTok, more so than in other platforms. And working closely with them is probably more important than in Facebook or YouTube. We're actually talking about co-creation, like as a primary way of engaging audiences on TikTok, right? And the importance of influencers gets even a little bit more clear in the next slide. So we see that the main way that brands are currently activating their communities is through challenges rather than ads. So you basically need real people doing truly entertaining content, and TikTokers are going to help you with that. In case perhaps if you in your organization find it difficult to understand how to create content, you can shorten and climb that learning curve by partnering with people that know that. It might be an agency, of course, but it can be also TikTokers themselves, and you have to really keep in mind what's the best interest of what's going to be more entertaining for your target than what's more entertaining for or what's the primary, what you want to say, basically what's the message of your product, so to speak. Okay, so let's move a little bit about talk about the specifics of TikTok. Okay, so there's what makes this platform unique, right? So we have basically two answers from a technical perspective, right? So the first thing is that content discovery is turbocharged, right? The content, the algorithm, we're talking about algorithm here. The second thing is that it's super easy to create, right? It's simple, editing is super easy. A teenager can do it. You even have people that actually create videos and edit them on TikTok, and then you export it to Instagram. That's how easy it is, and that's how important this particular function is as well, like, so ability to create. Let's go a little bit deeper into this first point, right? Let's focus a bit on this algorithm. So this is what gets people hooked, right? So in fact, we see that almost 70% of the time spent on TikTok goes basically to watch videos of strangers, right? It's the For You page, right? So this is where you open, when you open TikTok, this is where you basically start your TikTok session, right? So, which is basically strangers, which is very different from what Facebook or other social platforms provide, the experience that they provide. They are primarily driven by people you already follow, right? And this is perhaps one of the bigger questions that we get all the time, right? So, so the For You page, how do you get in it, right? So let's, so this was actually a mystery until recently. There was like lots of different speculations that you had to use the hashtag For You page, or like, seriously, there's many speculations of how it happens, but now we know how the content actually propagates in the network, and it has been actually reviewed by TikTok themselves, so I think it's a pretty good source, right? And the first thing is that we know that everyone has a different For You page. So getting into the For You page, you're not going to get into everyone's mobile. You're going to get into the mobile of people that actually are more likely to enjoy the content you have provided, right? So the way it works is that when a video is uploaded, the app will analyze who you are, your interests. It will analyze the video. It will analyze eventual hashtags that you might have, who's the artist of the music in case you're using music, and it will show this video to a small but diverse sample in the For You pages of a small but diverse sample to check the type of audience that is more likely to enjoy your video the most, right? And then make recommendations to other users based on this, right? It will find more users that kind of have more or less the same profile, so you can get your video into their For You page. So in the example that we have depicted here, we have someone uploading a video and two people engage with it, right? TikTok will analyze what are the variables that connect the positive responders. And in this case, it appears that these two people are a little bit more professionally minded. You can see because they use ties, right? Because of this, TikTok is going to recognize that. And so what's going to happen next is that more professionally minded people then get exposed to this video, and the process repeats itself for a while, and that's how a video trends, right? Sometimes it takes time right? Actually, like there are cases in which the original posting date was like 3 months ago, and and it gets trending like only like a while after, right? And that's because of the way that they actually put the weight in, what are strong signals, weak signals, and all that thing. So it's actually very interesting to read what matters and what doesn't. Of course, engagement matters, like if people view your video to the end, if people like it or heart it, right? The hashtags that it contains, the music, even the comments that you make in different types of video, it kind of registers and starts to put you, helps TikTok identify if you might like a different, a specific video, right? And these things actually matter a lot more than language or country, right? Or even the number of followers of the author. So that all those things, they don't really matter. Actually, those are non-signals. And of course, that if you are using an influencer, I mean, that's as we have been saying, that it might be good, right? That has lots of followers, that will help you with reach in the following tab, right? It's not where you land when you open TikTok, but the following tab will actually give you that reach that you certainly want, but it does not necessarily guarantee that the video will feature in the For You page. Ultimately, the way we read all this is that what matters the most is to make sure that you design your video for user engagement rather than for directly designing it for awareness or to talk about something specific of your product. If you're going to use music, prefer music that the audience is listening to, prefer artists that is resonating with your and are trending with your audience. Use hashtags appropriate for your audience. So I would only use the hashtag For You page if your audience like really is crazy about this hashtag. Otherwise, there's probably better hashtags to use. And of course, the influencer might help, but their audience is not really guaranteed. So do consider these elements because the recommendation engine works incredibly well, right? So let's move to the next slide to see exactly what do we mean by working incredibly well. So we see that users are spending close to an hour a day on TikTok and going back to it like 9 times a day. So this is amazing because it creates, basically the level of relationship that you have over there with the audiences is great, right? But of course it creates a problem too, right? Because many times brands would like to engage with their consumers and then get them out of TikTok, right, into their social or web properties where you might be able to discuss a little bit more about your particular offer or a particular project. So TikTok is actually working on this particular kind of problem, and it's actually working on lots of different types of problems that you might have or that their advertisers might have, right? There's new formats coming along, like such as interactive drama, buy buttons, and all that. So it is important that you have your agency developing a good relationship with your local or regional TikTok representatives and share your challenges with them because they may be rolling out solutions to your specific type of challenge pretty quickly. And we also know that even if they might not have a particular format in your region as a standard offer, if you do have a level of relationship with TikTok, they can make an exception just for your brand so you can use the format that you think will work better with your initiative. Now I will hand over to Mei Li, so who will start to talk a little bit more about what drives participation. Right, Mei?
Thanks, Werner. Hi, everyone. So I guess we've looked into the backstory for what makes TikTok so addictive today and why it is so relevant to businesses today. So I'll be taking over from here, and let's actually move into what drives participation on TikTok, whether it's about content discovery or content creation. Because of how creatively driven this platform is, there are 3 things around participation. The first is the way communities are being built around enabling creative expression. The second is how this platform actually provides an outlet for people to self-express. The third is how collective participation is actually driving trendy topics and the kind of viral content trends that we see on social today. So the platform's culture is very casual, so that means that people are not having to curate themselves or having to create or maintain this perfect feed. Whether it's about dancing, singing, acting, creating comedy, or even collaborating with others, anyone can be a creator on TikTok. So people participate to show their creative output, and each user has their own creative flavor for using visual effects, the kind of visual editing style that they use, or even the way that they would layer on music tracks. So the reason to participate is very simple. Almost 3/4 of the platform users are often motivated to recreate a funny or cool video that they see. And that's actually a very huge number around audience motivation that we are looking at. So an integral part of how brands, or the way that these TikTok communities are being activated is that users are taking the original challenge but giving their own spin by improvising or remixing it. So they are layering on new styles of edits, and that's actually helping to drive the way viral trends kick off. So this example we have in here is called the Knock Knock Challenge in India, when mom doesn't open the door, and how that is being remixed, either as a prank, expressed through a dance, featuring pets, or even creating duet feature between two users. So what it is that this challenge often acts as a template, and content's actually made richer as users want to improvise and show their own take of integrating these challenges. So what that means is that there are endless possibilities for the different styles of visual edits, and there's a huge variety of UGC that we can get out from a single challenge. So in a way, there's a huge sense of community, as this idea of challenges actually function as a form of collective participation, as users want to co-create to make even better content. Content can be wacky, informative, and even educational, and we often see that this content or the videos that people create can cut across through many content genres. And that actually provides a way for people to seek out and build unique communities depending on their interests and the kind of passion points that they fall into. When it comes to the content on TikTok, it is very fresh and all about the unexpected. You have comedy skits, memes like Kombucha Girl, fitness tips, to even food recipes on how to make souffle pancake. What we're seeing is that it's all about entertainment. People want to have a laugh and be entertained. A lot of this content that's being created feels very real, homemade, and either have very minimal to low production costs, but very fast turnaround to what's trending on the platform. TikTok content is unique and sometimes can be seen completely random, but it definitely has personality. It's a platform that kind of shapes the content trends that we see on other social platforms, and it's not being shaped by other channels. So that means one thing is that adapting content does not work. When we look at some of these past viral content pieces, like the one on the right with Mr. Sandman Cat, it shows that a lot of these TikTok content pieces have very unexpected elements. So because authentic content really thrives on this platform, for brands, it means lighting up on their branding and their brand guidelines. So these are actually opportunities to actually show a playful and different side of the brand, which means creating new content and creative ideas that's not bounded by the formulaic content guidelines. Now, when it comes to successful challenges and the kind of popular content trends, the ones that have really stood out are the ones that are enabling co-creation. They are providing the room for creative interpretations and allowing people to add their creative flavor. In a way, mimicry on this platform is celebrated, and that drives platform exploration. Now, while people want to create similar video formats, they're also doing so by adding their personal touch through their visual edits. So in this next section, we're going to cover best practices and case studies, looking at the notable brands that are doing well on this platform. And just broadly setting up, how brands can typically approach TikTok. It's either at a short-term or a long-term approach. Alternatively, we can actually see these two approaches as paid or organic. So for brands who are not ready to commit fully on the platform or just looking to implement an activation, taking on a short-term approach will definitely work well, because you don't necessarily need to start an account, and it means you don't really have to maintain or think about the audience, think about the content framework that you would have to develop. So most of these short-term activities can actually be supported through a single or multiple paid ad formats using a sponsored challenge. And the great thing is that this ad format can even help drive users to specific landing pages of your brand. For a long-term approach, it's about building a branded channel through Always On. So we're first going to look what it means for brands to take on a short-term presence, whether it's a one-time activation or to kickstart their brand account. The main thing is that brands are looking to attain large-scale engagement quickly, to generate buzz, and to broaden their reach. And a lot of these short-term activities actually centered on the use of sponsored challenges, which actually helps to bring in more product-focused content. But we should always bear in mind that product is often communicated in context. It is not the hero. This first example we have here is from Nike Italy, where the use of TikTok was actually part of their integrated campaign, the Stop and Nothing campaign. So what the campaign wanted to do was to inspire Milan's young women to get into sports. And they paired three Milanese TikTok influencers with Nike athletes. And they were challenged to choreograph dance challenge routines that were inspired by real sporting moves. And what came out from that was 100 million overviews and more than 46,000 UGC on their first ever campaign page. So this is a classic example for what it means to run a sponsored challenge just with a single format, but also using the right content creators to amplify the content reach and get people to participate. So the second example I want to talk about is how to drive e-commerce. Now, as much as TikTok is an awareness platform, TikTok is constantly rolling out new features to kind of drive lower funnel activities, and these features are actually helping clients and brands with in-app conversion. But the main thing is that they want to keep user engagement within the app as much as possible. So more recently, Levi's was actually the first brand to test out TikTok's Shop Now buttons that would allow consumers to make purchases through the links posted within the TikTok feed. So what they did was to engage with popular creators to create their own customized Levi's, and when users viewed their videos, it would appear as an in-feed ad. So people could then click through to buy these customized denims, and on top of that, these influencers that they engage also whitelisted their Shop Now links within their bio. So this whitelisting is a typical behavior that we see on Instagram, and we think that's an interesting one to watch out for how TikTok's hinging on other social behaviors within this platform itself. So the next example I want to talk about is how our team in Milan actually developed creative filters for Vodafone. So creative filters and the approach that's very aligned to the visual styles of TikTok, because people are looking to use fun and exciting effects to make the content really stand out. The starting point for this was that we needed to develop a social activity to generate awareness on this Take It Easy offer. So this is a data package where users could simply shake their phone to confirm purchase. So to help launch this Shake It Easy challenge, a filter was created that literally shakes the camera and demonstrates how easy it is to activate this data plan. So this challenge also engage influencers to kind of create official content to show how they would shake up their life. What's really good about this is that it really maintains the main features of this offer, freedom and easy of use, but also leveraging on a shake gesture, which is already associated with this product. What came out from this challenge was 8.3 million views, and that shows us that the kind of engagement that comes out from a single hashtag challenge is very huge and in comparison to other social platforms. But one thing to note is that because of how rapid the cycle of trends on TikTok are, it means that sometimes trends are often short-lived. For brands who are looking to maximize the use of this platform and to drive virality, this would require the use of more high-impact ads at the start of their campaign. Now let's look at the brands that are taking on a more longer-term approach. And two key things around here is that they are creating content that's made exclusively for and through the platform itself. And the reason for that is because at the end of the day, no one wants to go into TikTok and find similar style of content that they can see and watch on other platforms. And the other thing is that they are using TikTok to humanize the brand and showing the brand's personality. In the early days of TikTok craze, NB was actually one of the few brands that actually jumped into the TikTok bandwagon, and they're using it to show a more lighthearted side of the league. So the kind of original content that they create are based off themes like Mascot Monday, Talent Tuesday, and Workout Wednesday. And they have content like players dancing on court, or even team mascot doing tricks and slam dunks, and even creating their own challenge like the dribble to the beat. Given the COVID-19 landscape that we are all in now, a lot of huge offline events have been cancelled or even postponed. But NBA is actually a great example for how brands can leverage on the use of social to maintain their brand presence, but also to better connect with their fans. So during this period, we've seen how their players like LeBron James are turning to TikTok to cope with the situation, but also creating their own challenges, and that in a way is helping NBA to stay top of mind and help meet this new consumer demand for online content. Another unlikely brand that we want to talk about is the Washington Post. And the Washington Post, it's typically you would associate it with a very serious brand reputation, but on TikTok itself, it's a way for them to cultivate a new audience group, which is the teenage readers. and that can actually provide new ways for them to drive revenue in the future. So the kind of content that they create focus a lot on workplace humor, comedic skits, behind the scenes, and even musicals. A lot of this content is actually shot live from their newsroom, and they have actual employees shooting and creating this content themselves. Now, some of this content may actually appear as super homemade, and in fact, that actually means that it requires very low production budget and very fast turnaround. So that means it's allowing them to quickly create content reacting trends that are happening at the given moment. As we've seen, there are a number of ways that we can build a brand presence on TikTok through the two different approaches. And just to touch upon some key takeaways. For a short-term approach, it's about allowing free play and for consumers to improvise and add their touch. As we've covered, challenges very much set the primary function for how this platform works. And inherent to that is that when brands go into this platform, they need to let consumers have fun in co-creating content on behalf of the brand. The second thing is that challenges are most successful with multiple ad formats, and engagements actually attain when the whole platform activities are geared towards the right use of formats, but also activating the challenges through creators who would inspire people to participate. Lastly, to stand out on this platform that is typically dominated by challenges, we need to play into incentivizing participation and giving brand recognition. For a long-term approach, it's less about being on brand, more about showing personality. And given the nature of this platform where people are looking for on-demand and entertaining content, for brands it's about being lighthearted, offering fun and a different side of the brand that's not typically seen on other platforms. And in a way, it's almost like creating a Finsta account, but with bite-sized videos. The second thing is that original content needs to be made for and through the channel itself. It needs to be more reflective of the raw, unfiltered, homemade content that the audience are used to seeing. Lastly, all of this content needs to have entertainment value. While we can use ad formats to ensure that the brand and the client gets visibility, to increase the likelihood of people participating, content or challenges that's being created needs to be more aligned with the platform's visual language and style. So what we've seen is that unlike other social platforms, organic reach is still alive and well within a TikTok platform. If clients and brands can approach this platform well, this low investment can actually create very big returns. Finally, in this last section, we'll take you guys through on the steps that are needed to get started on this platform. And just a quick reminder here is that if you have any questions, please leave them at the side panel and we'll get to it towards the end of this session. Before we go into details of how to actually get started, we want to address the latest update is that TikTok recently announced TikTok for Business. So what this is that it's a business help center for the latest product news, tips, or even platform features that they are rolling out, which is very similar to what Facebook and Instagram have done. So just to briefly touch upon what the key highlights of this platform are, is that you can get access to Ads Manager. There are detailed information on all of their ad formats and even brand case studies for benchmarking. There's also a newly launched AR branded effect, which they call the branded scanner, which aims to create an AR experience within the app itself. So this is a feature that we think that would make TikTok a strong contender against Snapchat and Instagram's AR filters. Moving on, before brands get started on TikTok, first things first is that we have to acknowledge that TikTok is very different from all other social platforms. Just looking at how TikTok actually sits against all other social platforms is that it is one for pure entertainment and content consumption. The audience behavior and the mindset are very distinctively unique as we have run through, but it presents both short-term and long-term opportunities for brands to connect with new audiences. That means a couple of things. That when we approach this platform, it means taking on a more experimentative mindset. For the fact that TikTok actually functions in a very random and unexplanatory way. So what we recommend is that platform exploration should always have an initial test and learn phase, and that's where you could derive key learnings and refine any content framework or creative content along the way. The second is to have clarity on the platform in terms of content expectations. So there are no formulaic recipes for what is considered super fun or entertaining, and including the types of UGC that your fans might create. But what we know for a fact is that humor, wit, and unexpected elements goes a long way. Lastly, to have an alignment on channel narrative, and you could do so through an initial assessment around the kind of brand opportunities, what's the tonality on TikTok versus Instagram or Facebook, and what's the approach, whether it's about taking a paid approach or an organic approach. So to help define these channel narratives, there are some rules of play that we can apply. This is called SYNC, S-I-N-C, and this is actually suggested by TikTok themselves. So S is to seek to entertain. Brands can kickstart their account by focusing on short-term activities and applying best practices. But at the same time, we should always bear in mind that products should be integrated as part of the video storytelling and not as the focal point. I is about influencers that makes the platform. So hero influencers are key for mass exposure and buzz, but local influencers can help attain reach in more authentic ways. N is about novelty and creativity. It is a platform to take some risks, so always try new content and creative ideas. C is about co-creation, providing simple and easily replicable format that would invite people to co-create on behalf of the brand. So for brands, we know that going into this platform fresh, it can be quite overwhelming. So what we've outlined here are some components to get started through a short-term approach. So, to leverage on the offerings, the ad products that TikTok offers, this can happen at 3 different scales. For instance, if it's about kickstarting a channel launch or to support a launch phase of a campaign, it's about using high visibility formats like the brand takeover ad, which is the top image on the left. So this brand takeover ad is a format where, it would be the first thing users sees once they open up the app. And these can actually direct users to specific landing pages. The other thing is that, if it's about supporting a shorter campaign phase of a very specific local brand initiative, we recommend keeping some upper funnel visibility through a single paid ad format, but also focusing on mid-funnel engagement through a basic hashtag challenge page. But above all, all of the challenges should be amplified through the use of influencers. So the other more organic way to go about TikTok is to focus on generating UGC. And, for brands who are a bit conservative with, using ad formats and all, I think a nice way would be to tap into the brand's existing influencer network. And this would be more highly relevant at a local market level. So in the next couple of slides, we'll briefly take you guys through what it means to create a challenge on TikTok. So the first, obviously, would be to define a TikTok challenge format, sort of. We say sort of because you don't really want to dictate how people should participate. For local markets, this challenge can be created solely for short-term activities without having to open an account, and this will definitely be good as it would require low maintenance thereafter. For a global level, we recommend creating a handle to have a brand presence and eventually look to build the account. So to define this challenge format, what it means is that you need to come up with an easy-to-follow dance choreography and a catchy hashtag name. Accompanying to that would be to pick an original music or to create an original soundtrack per challenge. And that's because TikTok is such a sound-on experience where the choice of music can play a huge role in the content output and how trends take off. The second is about making the template easily replicable. 2 key things is that, we should always use native in-app editing tools to make it more palatable to what people are used to seeing. Another thing is that, consider creating how-to's template that would make it easier for people to participate by outlining a step-by-step tutorial for this challenge. The third is about identifying the relevant TikTok influencers because they are key for how challenges can go viral, either by inspiring their followers or to jump on board what's trendy, or even creating their video templates for people to improvise. And to identify, there is a TikTok creators marketplace that exists. This is an official platform that TikTok came up with, and it's currently rolled out in certain regions. So within this platform itself, there are certain search filters like filtering influencers based on their social following, the kind of reach that they have, the country, the content topic, and even the mobile device software that their followers are using. More importantly, it's about engaging the influencers that would feel most natural to do these challenges, whether it's about activating global hero influencers or even using the trending macro influencers. The fourth thing is about identifying the number of campaign ad formats. There are standardized challenge packages that TikTok offers, depending on your budget and depending on your campaign objectives. On top of that, there are also additional add-ons like creating a branded filter like the Vodafone case study we talked about earlier that can actually help brands to generate branded UGC at scale. The fifth thing is about creating and deciding what are the incentives for people to participate. It's about giving people a sense of reward through the brand recognition and brand acknowledgement for what they're creating. So we could do that by highlighting top performing content and leveraging on your brand's social cloud to provide social currency, and that would invite future content creation. The last thing would be to further amplify this content across social. We've seen how TikTok content actually go viral on other platforms simply because there's a cross-posting function that allows people to do a simple direct sharing. And for brands, that means that they can own their branding because of this very evident TikTok watermark on all of their videos. More importantly, with all of these UGCs, these are earned mentions that can be integrated into all other owned social platforms, including the overall brand ecosystem. To end off, TikTok, as we all know, is currently the big thing. It is evolving fast and will continue to grow exponentially. But given the current pandemic crisis, we know that this has actually created new consumer needs and new content demands, and that has actually led to this huge uptick in the TikTok platform. As the stages of COVID-19 change, there might be an evolution of these behaviors, but considering in the context of it all, the fundamentals of what makes great entertaining content, that hasn't really changed. And that's really setting the stage for how brands can actually lean into this new demand. And just looking at how a lot of content creators today are actually moving over to this platform, they are also bringing their existing followers into the TikTok platform. So with more people coming into the platform, it's very likely that they won't go away because there's a lot going on within the space to keep them on it. People are very committed to this platform, as we've talked about earlier. They're going back to the app 9 times in a day. And that's a way for brands to drive brand growth and build a community on an unventured territory if it's done well. The other thing is that TikTok can very well be an added revenue for brands to connect with new audiences. Beyond just brand impressions and even reach, it is setting a trajectory for how it can possibly be used to drive conversion in the long run. Especially so with the new formats that TikTok's coming up with to drive e-commerce and even convert people within the app itself. There's a lot of potential to drive longer tail activities. Lastly, TikTok doesn't function in a way that we typically know how social work. So that means, we need to take time to do test and learn, to understand what it is that drives entertainment value, what's the process to get around it, but also having very flexible brand guidelines because people are just looking to have fun. It's a lot more than just creating content. Brands who are fast to react to trends and social conversations can actually generate cultural capital. So TikTok and I guess this platform itself, these are ways for how brands can actually be at the forefront for all of these cultural conversations that are happening. With that, we've come to the end of this webinar and we're going to move into the Q&A section. We'll take a couple of minutes to consolidate and look through the questions, so please hang tight.
All right, cool. All right, thank you, Mei Li. Okay, so we have been scraping a little bit. There's lots of questions, great. So I'm going to take on a few of them, and then Mei Li is going to take on a few as well. There's quite a few questions here about music, right, on TikTok. And yeah, so do brands need to license the use of music on TikTok? Like this kind of questions, there's lots of them. So it used to be a gray area, right? So hence it was basically free, right? Now it has changed. So TikTok has altered the rules around commercial usage of popular music in the platform. So this is stopping brands from using popular tracks, referring them instead to this new royalty-free commercial music library that they have, which is someone actually has questioned, well, nobody likes those songs, what do I do, right? Well, brands can still use user-generated sounds, and normal users can still use a full library of music. To us, that means, what does that mean is that you need to consider how to create original branded music. So there's lots of cases within TikTok now of brands that have actually co-created music with influencers or with bands, or actually acquire the rights, license the music that you need to use. That is going to be like the same as other channels from now on, and I think it's good because it makes the platform a lot more compliant with international regulations, and I think that's positive for everyone. Right. I'm going to take on a second question here, which is about the future, right? Quite a few questions. So do you see any issues with TikTok given it's been pulled from app stores in several countries for different reasons, right? So, yeah, I mean, this is certainly a challenge for TikTok. We know that TikTok is working with governments in India in particular, right? But also the US that is threatening to pull the plug on TikTok in that market, and as well as other markets. But what we hope is that they will be able to restore the app, right, or prevent it from being delisted in affected countries, right? And we do hope that they succeed, right? Because not only because there's a lot of people that enjoy using the app. I think TikTok was actually if I recall correctly, it's the #1 entertaining app in India, right? I think there's 200 million users over there, so that's a small piece of fun that these people have, but also because it's positive for any country to have this type of company inside, right? So TikTok in India alone provides over, I heard, 2,000 qualified jobs. So certainly that's the kind of incentive that any country would like to have, and the tech industry certainly benefits from having this type of company over there, right? A few questions here about convincing stakeholders as well. All right, so people having trouble finding data to convince stakeholders. Also something about whether you can delete your account if you want. So these two questions came together. So I would encourage that you look at TikTok for Business, right? There's probably a lot of data there that that might help answering questions from your stakeholders, as well as the creator marketplace that kind of helps you give an idea of how much money is needed to collaborate with some of these influencers. So in general, the commercial team at TikTok, they have a lot of data that they don't make publicly available, right? So I think this week we had a call with them. Their deck has a lot of detail, and if we want more detail, they can always give us. But they will discuss this data with potential clients, right? And finally, about the second part of the question, there was a little bit about data transfer or freezing, deleting, that kind of stuff. So I can tell you that business's account can freeze the account, right? So that's something that that some companies do, right? So and that might help. If that's what you need, I mean, that might be one way of going about this, right? Lots of questions about tone of voice, right? So how do you toe the line of brand and brand voice using this platform in a natural way, because it's very specific and they don't want to alienate other audiences using that, etc. Right? Well, I think maybe in the presentation, I think we alluded to a few times, but I think one of the most important things when you're working with, I think any platform, but certainly with TikTok, is that you work together with your audience, right? So co-creation should be a priority, should be like a mode of working, like the primary mode of working inside TikTok. So that can be done in many ways. I mean, we've spoken a little bit about, if you have access to influencers, it's great. I mean, they're going to shorten your learning curve. They will be used to, they will know what their audience actually likes, what they don't like. So you use their knowledge, right? But there are other ways as well that you might be able to toe the line, as you say, right? You can connect with some people of your audience, informally test material your agency certainly can find creative ways of actually getting feedback on basically testing, right, the material in a way that is truly that's going to diminish the risk when you actually put the material out there in the open for a larger audience. There's other ways of doing this, a bit more unorthodox solution, perhaps. I think is what Chipotle does. I'm not completely sure of this, but it seems to me that's what they do. It seems like if you look at their content, it certainly looks like that they have some of their employees running it, as in like normal younger people shooting videos or coming up with stuff that is just fun and use their recipes, use their products, use their foods to actually come up with content. That's a fun account to have a look at, and you can see like how actually the brand guidelines, they probably have to be bent a little bit when working with TikTok, because because it is different from a normal advertising platform, right? So hence why I think the final bullet of the summary that we have just provided actually is about experimentation. So don't be afraid. I mean, you're not gonna the audience that you're gonna reach. I mean, it's probably, if it's a Gen Z audience, I mean, they're gonna be understanding of your attempts. And if you try to do something and you actually look at it, learn, that's gonna be positive. Okay, yeah, nice. The competition, right? So, is TikTok going to survive the Facebook attack? Right, Facebook is coming up with Reel, right, which is something I think it's inside. It's actually under Instagram, right? So a lot of people say, well, like this is going to happen. The exact same thing that happened with Snapchat. Like when Instagram released stories, and then Snapchat like ceased growing almost immediately, and Facebook basically took over that type of that piece of the pie. Well, we will see, right? But we think that actually TikTok will survive because it's in a much better position than Snapchat was, right? I think first and foremost, I think that TikTok, I mean, the algorithm that they have is truly it is truly sophisticated. And it works differently than the way that Facebook and Instagram works, right? So there's like kind of a core difference just out of this, right off the bat, right? So this is like a major thing that Facebook has to work on to actually get right. So the algorithm at TikTok does get people hooked. So and also the other part is that TikTok is much bigger than Snapchat was when Instagram launched the stories, right? So we think that TikTok has critical mass, and it will be a lot more difficult to get people to just abandon TikTok. So I'll answer, I think, one last question. We're almost at 5 o'clock. So creator collaborations versus brand channels, what seems to work better? Well, we usually think about it in terms of long-term versus short-term to determine if we activate influencers or if we go with a brand channel solution, right? Our exploration, we don't have like really hard data on this, but our exploration in some of the examples you've seen appears to show that influencers are more effective in the short-term campaigns, right? And when we start thinking about longer-term presence, like you want to establish a brand channel, out there, then probably the brand you do not need influencers. You need to find some sustainable solutions. So brands such as Washington Post that we showed, that's like super serious but doing great. Chipotle, they have great brand channels because they are people centric, right? And so this is more or less, I think, the way we would divide it. So I'm just a bit conscious of time. I mean, as I said earlier, we are going to share these, and we're going to expand this Q&A when we do share the deck. But we are reaching the end of the session already. So just going over a little bit. So a full hour has gone really fast. If you have more questions, or if you'd like to discuss further how your brand might be able to get a part of the TikTok pie, please get in touch with our regional leads. Talk to Chris in APAC or Garrett in EMEA, or write to Ben in the Americas. I'm sure it will be fun and it will be a pleasure. Thank you very much for your audience today. Hope to hear from you again soon.